உள்ளதலதுள்ள உணர் உள்ளதோ உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளலற உள்ளத்தே உள்ளதோ உள்ளம் எனும் உள்ள பொருள் உள்ளல் எவன் உள்ளத்தே உள்ளபடி உள்ளதே உள்ளல் உணர்வாயே. Namo Ramana. With Bhagavan's immense grace, we have come up to the heart of the work, the sadhana verses 27, 28, 29. This is called the heart of the Ulladu Narpadu. The key verses. நானுதியாதுள்ள நிலை நாம் அதுவாம் உள்ள நிலை நானுதிக்கும் தானம் அதை நாடாமல் நான் உதியா தன்னிழப்பை சார்வதவன் சாராமல் தான் அதுவாம் தன்னிலையில் நிற்பதவன் சாற்று. நானுதியாதுள்ள நிலை நாம் அதுவாய் உள்ள நிலை நான் உதிக்கும் தானமதை நாடாமல் நானுதியா தன்னிழப்பை சார்வதவன் நானுதியா தன்னிழப்பை சாராமல் தான் அதுவாம் தன்னிலையில் நிற்பதவன் சாற்று is the verse. Now this is the Bhagavan's direct path. Before embarking on the direct path, let us see briefly the Bhakti Marga and the traditional Jnana Marga before we start on Bhagavan's Vichara Marga. What is involved in the Bhakti Marga? What is involved in the traditional Jnana Marga? And what Bhagavan asks of us in these three sadhana shlokas. Karma Marga, of course, the purification through letting go of results and focusing only on what work we have taken up in the moment. And whenever the mind goes towards the result, either in the past or in the future, because the result is shaped by our past knowledge, the mind is dragged back to the work itself. So in Karma Marga, the total focus is on the work. Karmanyevadi karasya ma phaleshu. So the mind is purified to the extent that it does not go to the result, and that's a major purification indeed. But let's dwell on the Bhakti Marga a little bit in detail so that we get to understand what Bhagavan is blessing us with in Atma Vicharam. A little bit of Bhakti Marga and of course the traditional Jnana Marga, so that we will understand what he is asking us to practice, why he calls it as direct path. The Bhakti Marga has a takeoff primarily from the Karma Marga. Still lot of doing is there, but we understand that there is a connecting energy. There is a Manigalil Saradana Uyirdorum Nana Madandorum Uruvanai Maruvum Iraivan. that God is the power that runs like a thread through all events, all beings, so that almost all events have to be determined by that and not by the limited ego, but has to be arranged by that Shakti only. How do we come upon that? What Carl Jung calls as synchronicity. That the present moment that I am conversing or talking to the group, that it is a trillion in one probability that I am able to do this, and not the creation of me or Ujjwalji or the group of people. How do we get a sense of that? That there is something that is so powerful that it can only be the true doer, that we with our limited knowledge don't even scratch the surface of things, not even that. Now to realize that, there are a few methods that are shown, and in our own lives we see sometimes the synchronicity falling in place. And what do we do with that? What do we do with such synchronous events where it is so clear that it is grace of God that has made that event happen? Like in the recent pilgrimage to Tiruvannamalai with the RMCL team, that was in the previous Monday, that is before the Wednesday. As is my usual practice, I used to bounce off that week's verse with Bhagavan devotees and discuss it with them and see what happens. So similarly, throughout the journey almost, Dilip ji, Venkatesh ji, I, Parsid ji, Akka, and Ujjwal ji and team, we were all primarily discussing the verse number 26 of Ulladu Narpadu, Ahandai Undayin, Anaitum Undahu. More or less, that was the only thing on which we were focusing, with examples given by each in their own way. And we were allotted rooms in the ashram. Usually we go to a different place that is usually allotted to us. So that was not available, and we had gone to yet another set of rooms, and here 2 each only could stay in each room. So 6 of us gents were there. So there were 3 rooms with 3 keys. So Dilipji and I, we went into room number 10, and the other 4 people took the other 2 rooms. And Dilipji, as soon as he entered, I had gone to the washroom, and he immediately noticed that behind the door, verse number 26 was affixed. Verse number 26 of Ulladu Narpadu was affixed there. And he noticed and told me the probability that we would discuss that only throughout the journey, at least from my perspective, and the probability that we were allotted this set of rooms and not the earlier rooms, which was most probably what we would land up with when we go there. And out of the 3 rooms that Dilipji and I should go there, and as soon as he enters, each thought being directional, if he had some primary thing to think about in our pilgrimage there, he might not have looked at that at all. Now the event that he could see and he could tell, it immediately clarified to us in one sense that all of us were being carried by Bhagavan. That one power, because it was not seen by me, and the discussion was not centered around me or one of the persons. All of us participated in our own ways. Many things had come up, and this particular verse was fixed there. Now, that is, to me, a trillion in one possibility. Another incident, when our daughter was to go to her first appointment in Hyderabad, the train had to stop at Kachiguda and not take her to Secunderabad. That was her first appointment, but she had been traveling to her hostel in Trichy, 400 kilometers away, for almost 4 years. And we did not think much about this, that 4 o'clock it will land in the morning and she'll be able to make it there without any fear. But the previous day we asked her, are you having any fear about making that? And she said yes, because it's totally new. We don't know how those things come. So she was expressing, we don't know how I'm going to make it. Then we checked with my brother and he said he could arrange the car from one of his agents, one of the company agents of the TVS group in that place, Secunderabad, to pick her a very reliable person to pick her up and drop. So that had assuaged our fears a little bit. Then we went to the two parents, my better half and I, we went to drop her in the station and we were sitting in the second AC, which the company had allowed her to travel by. And we were sitting near her, waiting for the train to start. And a middle-aged lady, the younger version of middle-aged lady, with two teenage sons running around, she struck up a conversation with us. And she was talking to Archana quite a lot. And finally, she came to the question, where are you going? And what are you doing in Secunderabad? So Archana said, this is where I'm going. I'm going to join the company, Coromandel. And tomorrow is my induction. I have to travel from Kachiguda. She said, don't worry. My husband is the vice president in the company. He has just gone to have his coffee. We will see that you are dropped in the induction center. So the probability that that lady could strike up a conversation about this and that she was seated there, the vice president's wife was seated there, the probability is really trillion in one, that they took a holiday to Bangalore at that time and they were getting back exactly on this day. And there were 4 trains to Secunderabad, Hyderabad. And there were 3-4 AC compartments. In this AC compartment, there were about 50-60 seats, 3-tier. And exactly the next seat, it is a trillion in one chance. Now, what happens in this situation? One more situation, please allow me. There was this father who was in a very, very difficult situation, a great engineer, well recognized and at the top of his profession. But in personal life, he had great difficulty in the family, which was not falling through, which was not setting up at all. And that particular night, the issues had come to a great emergency, and he had called me at 10 o'clock in the night and asked me, can you do this? Can you call these people up and clear up the emergency for me? I said, it is not fair on our part to call at this time. So the last resort he had in this world, I also said no. And he went and stood in front of Bhagavan's photo. And whatever he did. And he asked, what is happening? Why am I in such a fix? Within 2 seconds, whatever was to happen, it happened. And his emergency went away. And he called me and immediately told that I received the necessary call. Now the emergency is not there. Now, preceding that, he would come to my home with a lot of worries. And I would discuss Bhagavan's teachings with him. And in half an hour, he will say, I am squaring up my shoulders and going. With Bhagavan's teachings words, he would feel relieved of the worries and go. But after that, whenever he would come, there was one more incident like this, incident of synchronicity. I would just remind him of these 2 incidents. That see, such a power is what is working on behalf of you. Why you should carry the load? Why you should carry this load? Remember that it is Bhagavan who is carrying this load, and there has been proof. These 2 incidents are there. My job only was to remind ourselves, both of us, about that. No more reading of Bhagavan's teachings to him. Not necessary. Just remind him of those 2 incidents. Incidentally, in conversation, he will relax and go. And within 6 months, he stopped coming. He stopped coming because he had internalized that particular problem he was not carrying. He got the understanding, and the person who would come 3 times a week absolutely stopped coming. Though the problem persisted in the outside world to the eyes of everybody, to him, he understood that the bhakti is the way to go and Bhagavan is behind him. That engineer who had used his intellect and won great laurels here and even with his Japanese friends, he could not move an inch in this area with his small garland. But the moment he saw that two incidents of Bhagavan intervening after his practice of his teachings for many times, then he could catch hold of that and remember Bhagavan, not throughout, but whenever he would get reminded of this problem. This is more or less Bhakti Marga, that you realize through these synchronous events that it is absolutely none of us, none of these egos that are doing anything. I have shared another incident from a movie where a particular accident to a great ballerina who is just on the threshold of takeoff into the world fame status. She comes out of the auditorium after a practice session and meets with an accident with a taxi, and her knees are shortened or something like that. And from there, the career is gone. There is no chance of that kind of heights. But in that movie, they just go back 2-3 minutes from the accident and show that she bends to tie a lace, sending her friend ahead. And if she had not tied the lace, bent to tie the lace, this probably wouldn't have happened. Similarly, the taxi driver's life, they take back 2-3 minutes and show that if he had not gone back to the restaurant to pick up a forgotten thing and then start the car to come towards this area, he would not have been there at that point. Now forget about these two people alone. That particular incident is connected with all the people that are surrounding. Anybody could have come in between. Not only that, it is connected with all the natural events that are happening. Any of the things that are natural inconveniences that happen could have changed so the probabilities, once you start investigating, what are all the things that go into the happening of one moment, like this particular moment, that so many things are integrated, connected, and then this moment, it happens as though I am doing it. But that is the interconnectedness. When we see, we understand that it was not only that event where the vice president's wife was sitting nearby, but every moment, that is the probability. The probability of that event taking place is 1 trillion in every moment. And our only job in bhakti is to remember this, is to remember that every moment, every present moment, it is only that Shakti which runs through everything that could have arranged this moment, because the thoughts are of such nature that anything could have happened in the preceding minute of our joining into the group, that I might not have been here. And that probability is 1 trillion in 1. And the more we realize this, the more relaxed we are, the more the ego settles down, the anxiety comes down, the worries come down, the doership comes down. And that is the more or less the practice of Bhakti Marga. That is the outward turned mind sees so many events, so many things, that it has to first find the omnipotence of God and realize how Bhagavan is true when he says that our prarabdha prakaram adarkanavan aangang irundu aattivippan என்றும் நடவாதது என் முயற்சிக்கினும் நடவாது நடப்பது எந்தடை செய்யினும் நில்லாது இதுவே திண்ணம் ஆகலின் மௌனமாயிருக்கேன் என்று. He tells to the ego that this is how the synchronicity of events is there, that they are so connected that your small little ego could not have arranged any of this. Therefore remain silent, he says, and see every moment as a work of that grace. how it is sculpting everything. Now that is the sadhana, and it requires repeated connection with the outward, thinking of the power and surrendering and remembering and then going in. More or less, this brings us up in the path of bhakti. But that is the sadhana involved, and so many conflicts with the outside events, thinking of various combinations of doerships of people, what this person is thinking, that person should not have thought like that. All this is involved before we find that omnipotence of God, and say none of them can have any doership. And only then is one free of doership. If you say even one person has doership, has a capacity to be overlord of Lord himself, then your doership is still there. That's more or less the sadhana around that. As I have been seeing that path work out in our family, in our friends, and all that with whom I have been participating in that journey also, then we come to the traditional Jnana Marga. In traditional Jnana Marga, the Neti Neti, the Guru Upadesha is taken in Shravana. In Shravana, what do we listen? We listen a great lot of things. Great lot of things delineated and said, this cannot be you. That you are the the pure consciousness that is ever existent. These things, don't aim for any of this. Whenever you see any object, small or great, do ne iti, na iti, na iti, neti, neti, and then clear your consciousness. Then hold on to one thought as the Tattvamasi or Aham Brahmasmi as the Dhyana Lakshya. Hold that as the Dhyana Lakshya. And with that, you remove whatever proclivities arise as thoughts. Hold on to that one thought. Then eventually, that one thought will take you to the absolute. It will displace all other thoughts, and in the final state, it will absorb your ego and it will reveal itself as the self. We listen to that. I have probably read that quite long ago. But the manana part, that when we internalize it and make it our own, like we have read that, somebody has told it, we have had either Shravana or we have had the proper Bhavana, as the great ones have said this. But have I internalized it? That is the manana part. Think through it. To think through it, that can this be me? Should I aim for this? Should I aim for a better insurance facility or a better circumstance? Why should I not aim? So many of my friends are moving like this. Why should I not use my intelligence to earn that extra buck and put it in the bank? Why shouldn't I make myself more comfortable? All these things we work out and find out that they are also ashashvata, and slowly move towards the Nachiketa sthiti, where even if Yama comes and gives all under his scope, it is not going to give us happiness. It is going to be taken away from us. Come to that point and internalize it, make it ours. Yes, I have to practice it. And then come to Nididhyasana, that you really start fixing time for dhyana. That yes, this is what is paramount. Let the other things be on maintenance mode. Put it on the back burner or whatever. But start dhyana as the main thing. Morning so much time, evening so much time. Slowly, as we do dhyana, our earlier karma marga and bhakti marga start becoming clearer. Oh, this is how that I was supposed to practice. That indeed, that one nama is what is Aham Brahmasmi. Aham Brahmasmi was actually present as that nama which I was holding. It is Murugar, that is referred to that one. Some connections like that start coming. Slowly you start settling towards the purity. Each time you do dhyana, more purity is there. That purity helps you do dhyana better. So Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana is the route we take, Guru Mukhena, through the proper authority, and then settle down. But in all the three, karma, bhakti, and the traditional jnana marga, we will have the who am I to contend with in the end, says Bhagavan. That these are all connected with the ego-based sadhana. The ego is never questioned in these three approaches. not in karma marga, not in bhakti marga, not in the traditional jnana marga. The doer of the sadhana is never doubted directly. Always he is taken for granted that he has to be there and he has to hold. So what best the sadhanas do? It purifies the ego. It makes it more sensitive to the probable truths. And finally it is brought to the inquiry into the self, says Bhagwan. Whereas in Bhagwan's marga, the inquiry into the self is from word go. That, that which is the last question in all the other paths, it is the only question in Bhagwan's Atma Vicharam. And that is what he is going to delineate in this verse. Nanudiyad ulla nilai, nam aduvai ulla nilai. What we call as the omnipotent power in Bhakti Marga, what we call as the Satchitananda in the traditional Jnana Marga, Nanaduvam, Tattvamasi. But that Tattvamasi happens only when sadhana leads to Nanudiyad Ullani. Kanakamal says these are golden words of Bhagavan. This particular phrase, something to be remembered always. If one still remembers the traditional bhakti and traditional jnana margas, the phrase to be remembered in Bhagavan's Upadesham for sadhana is this phrase, that Nanudiyad nilai, Namaduvai ulla nilai. That's all. Nanudiyad nilai is sadhana, Namaduvai ulla nilai is siddhi or anubhava. So, Nanudiyad nilai, Nam aduvai ulla nilai. Where the I does not arise, where the I is not allowed to arise, that is where we are that. We are the Ullapurul. What did we see as Ullapurul? Ullapurul, Ullalare, Ullatte, Ulladal. Ullapurul, Ullalare, Ullatte, Ulladal. In the heart, the Supreme is there sans thoughts, completely free of thoughts, and it is called the heart itself. Now, when the Nanudiyadhulla nilai is the state where we are that, where Tattvamasi is a reality. Nanudiyadhulla nilai, Namaduvai ulla nilai. We should not forget that in the last verse, in the 26th verse, what happens when Nanudiyadhulla nilai is there is delineated, and we should not forget that. That is the reference point. It is not merely Nanudiyadhulla nilai, because Karuvam Ahandai Undayin Anaithum Undahum Ahandai Indrel Indranaithum. Ahandaye Yavumam Adalal Yadidendra Nadale Vovudal Yavumana. So, if when the ego is arising, everything arises. When the ego subsides, everything subsides. So, Nanudiyadhulla nilai is not only the subsidence of the ego, it is the subsidence of Sarvamidam. All other things are taken to the source when we are practicing who am I. When we are practicing who am I, everything else is taken to the same source from where the I arises. So it is the simultaneous subsidence of I and mine. The subsidence of I into the source is the simultaneous subsidence of mine into the source. Whatever the mind may be, it may be the smallest of thought about how we are going to make something, or it could be the thought about how the day, waking state, the dream and deep sleep, how they all come and go to me. They are mere thoughts in my presence. For whom is this thought about waking state itself? It could be a thought like that. But when the I subsides, both the making of that thing subsides and the whole of waking state subsides. The whole of waking state is taken to the source. Nanudiyadhulla nilai, Namaduvam ulla nilai. That is the point where we are that. Tattvamasi is made real. It is the practice approach of Tattvamasi, not dhyanic approach retaining the ego, retaining the separator, retaining the doubter, but the actualization of that teaching. Later on, we will see that அது நீ என்று அம்மறைகள் ஆர்த்திடவும் தன்னை எதுவென்று தான் தேர்ந்திராது அது நான் இது அன்று என்றெண்ணல் புறநின்மையினார் என்றும் அதுவே தானாய் அமர்வதா says Bhagavan. அது நீ என்று அம்மறைகள் ஆர்த்திடவும். The Vedas, the Vedanta, it shouts that it asserts that thou art that. Thou art that is fundamental to all the religions, say a few. But let's leave that for further discussion when that's possible. But right now, Aduniyan Rammarehal Arthidam. This particular verse is the implementation of Tattvamasi, the implementation of the truth of Tattvamasi. The Vedanta Sara is being applied here. நானுதியாதுள்ள நிலை நாம் அதுவாய் உள்ள நிலை. This is something you should hold on to, says Kanakamal. This is in pure Tamil, in Tamil that is tasting like honey, sweet like honey. Bhagavan sums up the entire area of sadhana. That means he sums up karma, bhakti, yoga and traditional jnana in that one sadhana. What is that? All that is idam related. But they arise only after the aham arise. So all those paths, they merge into the source. All those paths are idam related. They arise only after naan ezhundapin ellam ezhum. All those paths arise only after the I arises. So when the I is inquired into, all those paths are merged in the source. That is why Bhagavan says that uditta idathil odungi iruttal adu kanmamum bhaktiyum undi para அது யோகமும் ஞானமும் உந்தி பெற. That to subside into the source from where one arises, that is the summum bonum of karma, bhakti, yoga and jnana put together. So this one small part of this phrase, நானுதியாதுள்ள நிலை, sums up all those parts. Just do this one thing, the remembrance of God, the synchronicity of things, the upadesham from the guru to be obtained, manana and then nididhyas, all that, and going through the turmoils of life, interacting with them, saying this is a thing I can handle, that is something I cannot handle, how am I going to bear that? Go through all that and then decide there must be some power. Go to some door to door and find out somebody who will tell. Finally come to believe in that omnipotence. Remember it sometimes, get hit and boiled. One of my friends in this journey used to say that unless the jalebi is fried and all the pores are opened up, it is not ready to be transferred to the sugar solution. So we have to be boiled. We have to be boiled, he used to say. But and if you are the tamarind, to remove yourself from the seed, you have to be boiled in hot water. Then only we get detached. Only when we get burned, we take our hands off. Till then we are holding tight, was his opinion. Now what Bhagavan, just by looking at this, we can understand that the inwardness, it frees us of that, having to go through we might have already gone through all that, but doesn't matter. Now it is time to understand the efficacy of Bhagavan's teaching, that he sums up all those parts where the sadhakas say we have to necessarily be put in hot oil, open up the pores with all that, and then only transfer to the sugar solution where we are able to enjoy the bliss of bhakti. Till then, terrible turmoil, how such a successful person I am, but in this area, not a clue, not a single thing is there. I am not able to unravel. I am defeated. Go through that again and again and again, and then hold on to these synchronicities, apply them, get temporary relief. The surrender is applied from time to time. All that is directly summed up and done in this one part. Nanudiyadullan. For whom is this? நாம் அதுவாய் உள்ள நிலை. நானுதியாதுள்ள நிலை நாம் அதுவா நாம் அதுவாய் உள்ள நிலை. At that point, we are one with the source. Everything is one with the source. Karma, bhakti, yoga, jnana, all that have merged into the source. Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadamal. Now, the path is delineated now. The definition has been set up, but the path is delineated. Now, without inquiring into the source from where the I thought arises, Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadamal. Hold on to this. Nanu dikkum. So, what is the sadhana? Sadhana is Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadu. Wherever say all the other sadhanas are included in the single sadhana. What is that? Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadu. Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadu. That Bhagavan tells in the contrary way, that Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadamal, without seeking the source of the I, Nanu diya tannilappai sarvadevan. Who can attain or reach that point where the I stops arising? Because what is the ultimate state? Nanu diyadu ulla nilai. Not a state where sometimes it is rising, sometimes it is falling, which is clarified in Ramana Gita. I have sporadic experiences of thought-free state. Can I take that as final liberation? Bhagavan says no. That is still to be taken as sadhana avastha. You should have the abidance, the destruction of the ego, that you understand that your very nature is nanudiyadulla nilai. Nanudiyadulla nilai is the nature. Namaduvai ulla nilai. But how does that take place? Nanudikkum sthanamade nadamal. Suppose you can say that I will reach this point without looking at the source of the I. How is it possible? Asks Bhagavan. So what is he telling? He is telling, always inquire into the source from where you are arising. That whenever the sadhana is there, that for whom is this thought? Nanudikkum sthanamade. Adai nadamal, without seeking that, who is to get destruction of the ego? Nanudiya tanni ilappai sarvadevan. So who can go to that point where the ego is destroyed completely? So that the first part, nanudiyadulla nilai, is our nature. That can happen only when ego is destroyed. So Bhagavan sets it up that nanudikkum sthanamade nadu. ஏனென்றால் நானுதிக்கும் ஸ்தானமதை நாடாமல் நானுதியா தன்னிழப்பை சார்வதவன். Seek the source of the I, because without seeking the source of the I, can anyone expect the destruction of the ego? Saramal, that means nanudiya tannilappai saramal tanaduvam tannilayil nirpadavan saatru, is how he finishes. That without the destruction of the ego, can anybody abide in the self? Nan aduvai tannilayil nirpadevan. Saramal tanaduvam tannilayil nirpadevan saatru is Bhagavan's teaching. Let us go through the verse with a brief look at how it sets it up for all those margas to be brought to this one small part of a phrase. The part of that phrase is nanudiyadulla nilai. Nanudiyadulla nilai, namaduvayulla nilai. That point where the ego is destroyed and the ego doesn't arise at all, that is where you are that. That is where Tattvamasi is realized. Nanudikkum sthanamade nadamal. That means Bhagavan is saying, for this, always be remembering the omnipotence of God is that one time that synchronicity happened, then remember throughout all the moments that each moment is happening with that synchronicity. All that Bhagavan says is contained in Nanudikkum sthanamade nadu. Who wants to divide life into all these moments, see one moment of synchronicity and keep that sadhana going, that every moment is the synchronous arrangement of the trillion in one probability that is known only to that connecting energy. Now who is to meditate on that? Look at who is to meditate on that. Nanudikkum sthanamade nadu. Why you should seek the Nanudikkum sthanam, the place from where the I arises? Because Nanu dikkum sthanamade nadamal, without seeking the source from where the I thought arises, can anyone expect to reach that point where the I thought is destroyed? And without reaching that point where the I thought is destroyed, can anyone expect to abide in the self? It's not possible. You tell me, says Bhagavan. And we will tell him by practicing till 8 o'clock. By practicing, I think we still have 15 minutes. We can increase the practice time to 15 minutes and request Ujjwalji, you are there in charge. You can set it up for 7:57 or something like that. And 15 minutes we will do Atma Vicharam. What we are doing? Nanudikum Sthanamade Nadigirom. And we are doing the essence of all the margas that we have come to learn. Because this is the this is the essence of all the margas, says Bhagavan in Upadeshasaram, verse 10. That is உதித்த இடத்தில் ஒடுங்கி இருத்தல், அது கண்மமும் பக்தியும் முந்தி பெற, அது யோகமும் ஞானமும் முந்தி பெற. All the margas we are following in this one sadhana. It is the essence of that. Just observe the beginning of the I. We can do it in two ways, who am I or whence am I. But more of that in the next two verses. Let us do the practice, which is the essence of all spiritual sadhana.
नमो भगवते श्रीरमणाय।
Ramananjali, Hridayanjali, Ramananjali.